This is Between Hook Sets. I'm Jason Walter from In Through the Outdoors with my partner in slime, Kurt Underhill from the fishing crew.
What is going on, man?
Not a whole lot. I was trying to replicate my Lake Winnipeg big windy hook set, but that one, that one is a little bit different when you don't have the barbed hooks.
Yeah, I bet it is.
It's all about, because I have learned to kind of play with the fish a little bit, just kind of let them take a little line, peel a little drag. And then out there or up there, it's like, no, you got to get that fish through the hole. You can't fiddle around. Any head bob, anything going on, and you could lose that fish in an instant. So it was different. Didn't get a whole lot of opportunity to really lay into a ton of fish. The big ones, everything was super finicky, but the big ones came off of this. I don't know why they call it a little doctor, because it's 4.5 inches long. And it's got a 1/0 hook on it. And it's huge, but that tipped with minnows, full minnows, did the trick for a couple of large ones. Kirk lost one big one, and we ended up getting the second one up through the hole. So it was really fun to watch the walleye on the Mega Live, that hummingbird just kind of circle around that lure. So that thing is up here dangling, and that walleye is just coming around, and it comes up and it sits there, and all of a sudden, whoop, don't even know it's got it in its mouth, except for Kirk brought the line tight and went, oh, it's there. So really interesting, a different way of going about things up there.
Yeah.
But boy, did we have fun, and we learned a lot.
Well, and the ice was still good. Unlike around here, we had the winter fishing weekend over the weekend, and that one's pretty unique in its own self, because you can fish from land, shore, ice, shore, or the boat, and different categories. And we end up fishing ice walleye, and we end up 15th on 9 pounds. But it was the ice got bad. So the ice got bad pretty quick, and it's gotten worse. And we're going to call the 24 hours of ice because of unsafe ice conditions on the river. I talked to guys that were fishing ponds that had their live scopes down, and the water temp below the ice was 46 degrees. So I think we're in trouble around here. And maybe our guest tonight has spent most of his life on the ice. He can answer some of my questions. If guys are asking if it gets cold again, is it going to be good ice? And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So, but yeah, it was a fun weekend, and I don't know. I don't know when the next hook set will be. On to coyote tournament this weekend.
It's supposed to get a little bit colder. I hear we've got a little bit of ice around here for walking on, so we're just going to have to wait and see and play it by ear. It depends on how cold it gets. I hear there's a polar vortex that's going to spin around the North Pole and break off and drop a couple of vortices, and that's going to make it cold in the east and colder for us too. So let's just hang on and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, our next guest, he's been on the ice all day, so I'll bring him in here.
Oh, there we go. There we go. From the polar vortex.
Bro's got his perch goggles on.
I love that.
And then you had Heather in the background, and she disappeared.
Yeah, well, she got out of there. When she sees the bro goggles get on there, she leaves. It was chilly today, with all that moisture in the air blowing across the ice. And ice is gray and watery on top, and it takes a red person's face and makes it redder.
Yeah, isn't that great? So how much water on the ice there where you live?
There's not a whole lot. If you drop the minnow, you might have to chase them a little bit, but not too bad. Good to see you guys, though, at almost the end of ice, except I got to say, I think we got a lot longer coming. We got that vortex coming, and we got 16 to 18 inches of ice. We don't have the warm water underneath right now. A lot of rivers and creeks were blowing because we had some heavy rain here a couple weeks ago, and now that water level that volume is dropping, but it did its damage. And so let's just say we're setting records with vehicles and ATVs going through. And, there's been some bad things, but there's, it's keeping the local recovery crew busy on the machines. But the ice has been more safe than the roadways. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, the roads haven't been that great either. Holy cats.
No, lots of I don't know what it is, but a lot of younger people and a lot of traffic deaths on the roads. Our roads here are isolated in a lot of hills, a lot of animals, not animals like South Dakota, but lots of stuff and corners in it, and we're seeing almost every other day fatalities, and so people got to slow down up here. It's not a big highway. It's a little tiny road, and somebody might be coming over the hill on the other side. You got to watch out for them. But outside of that, ice has been pretty good. It's been quiet lately. Nobody going through, and the stuff that's happening. If you hear the real story, not the the what you're hearing on the news, somebody at night running up and down roads, maybe late at night just to check it out. They've never been on the ice and they're cracking up the ice. Then when the owner of the road gets out there, there's busted up ice from going super fast on the ice. And then they put up cones and one person drove through the cones and went through. So what can you do? And I think people racing up and down an ice road is that's almost like shooting at somebody, because you're creating damage. There's a little wave when you go super fast, and especially when we only have 16, 18, and some spots are like 20, 22 where the road is, but you got a truck or a car ripping down the road. It almost seems like right after that, the next morning, and so we got to slow down.
Well,
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I've noticed a few people moving a little fast, even with the ATVs or UTVs whipping through the little city or the crowd. People are flying through and flying by fast and really not paying attention to other people, and that's too bad.
Well, yeah, you can't go. It's not the four-wheel drive, or it's not four-wheel stop. It's four-wheel drive, as
Yeah.
the sheriff says around here. And but I'll say that it's been relatively news-free on the ice. People are being a little bit more cautious, and not as many are getting out with the big wheelhouses. There might be some bargain bins of those things here pretty soon if we keep having winters like this. Uh, I I like to see them get out. It's a family thing, and winter's long, and you got to have something to do. But this year is the year for my Otter portable running around, and my fishing electronics, my Aqua-Vu, and just going on the sled or the side by side's been fantastic. I don't have a red face like this when I'm in my side by side door fishing. You know, that's the best thing about a snowmobile. I love it. It's my favorite machine. But you really do gotta wear a helmet if you're covering some water because you could crack your head at 20 miles an hour. But you could scoot around this time of year. There's arguably nothing better. Well, over by you, maybe a Willcraft would be something good to have.
Yes, 100%.
Airboats are kind of loud.
Too loud.
Too loud. And a Willcraft, you don't have to leave it. You're just sitting there and fish. And I had a chance to use them. An amazing product, a small business. So if you're thinking of getting one, you got to order way ahead of time. And but from the time I used them, they were 2-wheel drive with hydraulic wheels, a boat on wheels. Now they're 4-wheel drive, hydrostatic, giant tires, tricked out crazy machines. And it's on my bucket list someday to have one of those things and to add to stuff here.
Yeah, they are a pretty unique item, and with the river here, they are. If you're a diehard ice fisherman fishing this river, this body of water changes so fast, and especially close to pier with the dam and stuff, and it's the safest way to be out there. I looked at getting one here earlier this year, but didn't pull the trigger. I had a guy trying to sell one. He wanted a little more than I wanted to spend for it because it was an older one, but I was close. I was close to pulling the trigger.
Just remember, it's like a snow bear. If you buy one, you better get two because who's going to come get you if you're on mushy, thin ice if you bust up the ice, if you're going too fast, and I did this, you're flying along and you bust and you splash down and you wreck the ice for a long ways, and you go to push pull and it's too deep. So you use your tires, they paddle you forward, but you got ice chunks all around you, kind of boxed you in. A second one, throwing a rope that you put around your cleat, is so much nicer. You sweat less, and they can pull you out. And they got studded tires too. So if you get one, you better have two somewhere near there, and then put a little envelope under there for, you know what the B word, when you call your friend and I got some B work for you. Well, come and get me. And it rhymes with witch. I got some witch work for you to do. So you'll find an envelope under there. Come get me, please.
Hi, Retro Heather.
Retro's here. All right.
Glad she's hanging out. Here, let's since she won't show on the camera, doesn't want to pop that. I knew she might be scared. So hello, Heather.
That's awesome. You got the photo.
Now, here we go. Now, as long as we're talking about photos, I went back because I always try to pull up some pictures that we can use during the show. And I tried to find some young bro. And boy, I tell you what, I had a problem because basically you go back to 2010, maybe a little bit less hair on the chin there. But I did find your graduation photo, though.
That's awesome. I love it. Hey, I do like that tie.
I thought maybe you would. Now I kept looking with it being election season. I see that at one point you must have run for president.
I love it.
I don't know. It looks a lot like Gerald Ford there, but with the hat and the glasses and the goatee on. It reminded my Halloween costume a couple years ago. I thought I pulled you off there relatively well.
That's fantastic. Where'd you get all that orange?
Well, I'll tell you what, that was a feathery mess. That's what that was. I couldn't keep from sneezing. It was absolutely ridiculous. So I've got more pictures of you, but we'll pop some up a little later on. I'm really curious for you to tell the story about the very first time. All of a sudden, you're a Northland Tackle guy. You're a pro staff. When did that happen, and how did it happen?
Well, for many years, I was always a fan of Northland, and I got to meet John Peterson and Dwayne Peterson, and they're the owners of Northland. John was the owner, and so was Dwayne. And Dwayne, they both ran the ship, and John worked hard. He was a real hard worker, and I admired that. And some of his designs were original. And if you go through the tackle aisles, it doesn't matter what store you're in, you see a lot of imitations of their stuff all the way up and down the line. And tackle's hard, because you have to come up with a concept that no one's ever done, and that's impossible. Because somebody in like the 20s carved something out of diamond willow somewhere, But just being around there, I just loved it, and I was kind of invited to come there anytime I needed stuff, and they'd have a box of jigs for me, and I'd go there and support them and what I do, and even back then, different fishing magazines and shows needed people who were on fish. Just because they got a TV show doesn't mean that they've had time to get out fishing. So, I was already starting to do that stuff, and they had me. Dwayne Peterson one day asked me in his office, and he is the best guy for sage advice. Super awesome. When I went in there, I'm like, maybe he needs a crappie spot or something, and he's got his own spots. Him and his sons are great anglers, and he had a contract for me, and and I'm like, well, what's this for? You don't have to worry. I'm faithful to Northland. I've been using Whistler jigs since I was 9 years old, wading the rivers and stuff like that. That was just such a great concept. And he's like, this is just to make it legit. And he slid it across to me. And I'm like, oh, no problem. He goes, can you be loyal? Can you use our stuff? I said, yes, I can. And he goes, well, just sign here. This makes it legit. And he goes, you better read it. And I said, oh, no, I trust you. And he said, it's not about trust. You better read it. I never read it. I just signed it and gave it to him, took my copy. And so I got home and I set it on the table, and I was living near Cass Lake at the time, and Heather's like, "Is this a contract?" I said, "Yeah," and she said, "Did you know you're getting paid money?" And I said, "No, I didn't." She goes, "Can you get more of these?" And then since then, but it was kind of, she chuckles a little bit because I wasn't really looking for that, and back then I didn't know if I wanted to be it. I was kind of a shy person, which doesn't exist anymore in me. You get kind of shied out of you, you
Right.
know. So over the years, I don't do well in front of 400 people. I had one seminar, there was over 400 people, and I did okay, but I mean, I don't do extremely well. In a bait shop, they have to kick me out, or they have to start serving, one or the other, because I'm right there. I'm holding court. But so having me go to stores really helped, because then I could talk to people, and they'll mention something, and I could find some commonality. It doesn't matter what state I was in. I heard about it, or had been there, or somebody I know through fishing, and it was just great. And I got to meet people all across the United States in the ice belt in the early beginnings. Then John had an idea about designing lures. He went ice fishing with me. We had a great time, and some of the concepts I had, like the bro bug initially, was it was radical. Back then you don't just come out with these alien type of shapes. It was really crazy. And then so it was kind of a neat thing and got everybody excited. Now every little doohickey thing is out there, and some stuff's just tacky, but they just have everything out there. But back then, having a larva head with the little eyes and stuff like that, so it had a following. Then we did the bro bug collection. But long and short of it, now I'm here. No, I skipped about 20 years there, but so I've been sponsored in the fishing industry, cash sponsored, for over 26 years, and I'm going to my 30th year of guiding. That being said, I was never super busy in the beginning, and there's a lesson I learned. You guide for bluegills or big crappies, it might be a one and done. You take someone out, you're in a rush bed by an old dead tree on shore, and 20 years later they're still fishing where you showed them once. And then not only that, that didn't make the phone ring off the hook. When I started guiding for walleyes, the phone rang off the hook. My favorite fish is a bluegill. I love catching big bluegills. And
Yeah, and do not show them pictures of bluegills on a cutting board. I
no,
learned firsthand. Do not do
no,
that.
no. Well, I don't know. Did something happen to your phone that day?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't normally do that, but his phone fell by accident. The spider webs on the phone weren't like real spider webs; they were like broken glass. But no, I didn't mean to do that. But ever since I was a kid, my father was off the beaten path in his theories, and he said big bluegills exist because of other big bluegills and the big males. And we always threw back bluegills over 9 inches ever since I was a little kid, and nobody understood it. And there's still, there's some people like, I would never do that. I'm like, well, good for you. Well, two wrongs don't make a right, and I'm not going to go your way. I'm going my way. And now you look at it now, all these years later, and it's a big deal. And I see young people letting them go. And one time I was out on a lake and I watched a guy catch a bluegill, and they measured it was 10.5 inches, and he held it up to his buddies and he let it go. And I walked up to him, and he thought I was going to say that was dumb. And I said, that was fantastic. And then he recognized me, and we had a great talk. And I said, I love seeing that. And now I've seen it 1,000 times. And everything is we all got to remember, it's not about let's kill it all today. And it's not just about bluegills, but we have forward viewing now, and we can hunt down fish. We're not fishing for fish, we're fishing fish. So when I have my humminbird on, or you got your other doohickey on, and you see the fish, and you're pitching on it, and they moving, and you're chasing them, and you catch them, and then some people, when they do get that big walleye, they're like, I'm keeping that sucker, because they don't get fishing much, or to them it's a big thing. I've seen it with clients where can you mind if we throw that one back? We'll do a hostage exchange. I'll exchange a 19.5 for your 26. And they're like, Sure. Okay. So, and it always works, except once in a while, someone will just go, I want that big fish. And so, but you see people chasing them down and they get them, or, they're hitting these fish in deep water or suspended, whatever. And then the next day they go do it. But do they stop and think those fish, we're starting to find out walleyes are way older than we think they are.
Mhm.
So they pop a 20-year-old fish, 24, 27-year-old fish. Oh, let's just go get one tomorrow. Let's go get another one. And there's this chasing down these big fish and then surfing them is not super exciting for me. I like to catch fish, but I want to make sure that they're going to go back. You don't want to bring up a bloodshot fish, and it's different. You go to out east on Erie, they have 10 million walleyes in one basin, and it's unbelievable. It's different from place to place, but Minnesota, they're super old and they super got to go back when they're big. But it's not just bluegills. It's just what are you in for? You want eaters? Well, Heather likes the 15-inch eaters, 14, 15, 16s. I like 17 to 18 because I like big food. If a portion is small at a restaurant, it doesn't taste good, right?
Yep.
No, just kidding. So big portion, so I don't want a 24-incher on my plate though, so 17, 18 is fine for me. But you'll be in a restaurant and you order fish over in Ohio. There's a place over there that all the pros stop at, and they have, yep, she likes the smaller walleyes, and it all started with Lake of the Woods, the saugers, because they tasted so good. We're in a restaurant in Port Clinton, and they have great everything, hush puppies and stuff. But you order the fish, the perch, and also it's coming out that's like this thick, in chunks, as big as this razor
Oh
puck.
my.
And I'm like, this ain't perch, but it tastes good, And they're like, well, perch is more expensive than walleye, and it's hard to get. It's like three or four times the value of a walleye, and so it's kind of crazy like that. But uh, the point is, we have technology, and we don't want to go backwards. It's fun. Kids are getting interested. They like seeing what they're casting at. I'm a traffic cop in a boat now. Where do we cast now? And you've directed them 1,000 times that day already. I'm just like, over there. But literally, and the kick of it is, I fish too while I'm with people, and I show them there's nothing on my side, and I catch fish all day long because I know if I cast, these things are moving. So if I hook a fish, they all cast me. They some trickery, and I'll show them there's nothing there. But it just goes to show you, still is got to be, you still got to go fish. So even with forward viewing, you might miss something. But oh, that's awesome. I like it.
Rotten yellow banana.
Yeah. Well, those kind of ice fishing is off the wall colors, I should say. Yeah, hook a beef, save the walleyes. But I'm talking about eating walleyes. I don't grow fangs like this to eat mac and cheese. I grow them to dig into like fish meat or deer or ruffed grouse or whatever. I mean, we're carnivores. I mean, but so I'm just saying, have a little mercy on some of those big ones that are like super old, and they might even be older than the person who caught it. Isn't
Mhm.
that crazy?
Oh, yeah.
And add up the years in a week. Bring a tournament.
Yeah, right.
What gets taken during pre-fish and during the tournament is utterly amazing, and they're fun. I've done tournaments. I've been on Oahe. It's a blast.
So
sometimes
you've been paid you've been, like I said, you've been paid a pro for 20 some years in this industry. What has that been like for you, and the evolution of the industry and the changing in the industry and the ups and downs? And I mean, if somebody's out there like watching, wanting to know what it's like, I want to be a professional fisherman. I don't think it's all what they think it is, And
well, the thing is, you got to remember is be loyal to your brand, and and if you do get a sponsorship, don't just treat it like a rung in the ladder. Take it serious, and it's not about if you can catch fish. You look at the field of pros out there. there's thousands, and they all can catch fish. And there's non-pros around the pros who can catch fish just like a pro. So catching fish does not move the needle. What moves the needle is if you promote something and it sells. If you can make something sell by promoting it, then you're helping your sponsor. If you do nothing to help the sponsor, if you show up for ice fishing after your third deer season and say, "Here I am, let's go ice fishing," you've missed it all. Because during deer season, we're talking about ice. When ice gets here, we're kind of tapering off and going into the next thing, because it's almost boat time now. It's time to talk about open water fishing here. And so the real thing to push, yes, Joe, I'm doing it, man. It's all about helping the stores move product, helping the companies stay in business. And when they do good, you do good. And that's the whole thing. If you're not pushing a needle, if you're just like, "I'm good at fishing," you're not going to get very far. If you're standing by a boat with stickers, yeah, you're by this big expensive thing that's unrealistic. But the one thing I've always loved about ice fishing, when you're in ice fishing, you could just have an otter sled or house. You could have a bucket. It is a simple sport to get into, and you could be tricked out like a pro for a few $100. So it's not about this $135,000 boat that has $40,000 with electronics on it, that has a wrap hooked up to a $90,000, ATX4, whatever. It's about just taking the boat. And when we lose the eye of, or the feeling of just taking any boat out and going fishing, before my boats get here, I have a boat was never pretty. We go fishing it, we catch a lot of fish. We take pictures of fish, but we're not shooting. We're not having a beauty contest on the boat. We're going to go fishing. And Heather will tell you a story. She thinks I tried to kill her that day, but we've caught a lot of fish in a John boat early on, and she loved it more than my guide boat. And because we could sneak in, we could do whatever we want, and it was simple. Just drop an anchor, drift, and now with technology, even if you're fishing fish, use what you got. And I talk to people all the time. And ice fishing is so simple, and that's why it is so popular. It's unbelievable. It is a huge popular deal, from carrying a bucket with rods and razoring some holes to, tandem axle, 8 by 24 foot wheelhouse. There's a lot of ways to go.
I think you're right on that icing thing. I kind of figured it out because I'm the king of catching small fish, and I finally figured out how to show people that my small fish are big. This works great.
Oh, I love it. The drinking cup.
Yep. I mean, that's how you make an 8-inch perch look huge. So, you can do anything you want with any size bottle, right?
Absolutely. I like that. I'll have to remember that when they're on the well, not the narrow side, but more of the not long side.
Yeah, right. So let's go. I just got this in the mail. I didn't get my mail all weekend because I was gone, and I finally today said, "Hey, I better go get my mail." Well, interestingly enough, if I can open it up, we get into the whistling walleyes, and who do I find in there but Brian Brosdahl again? So you turned to writing at one point in your career, and you've done a fair amount of it.
Well, here's the thing. Everybody getting into it, when you're on fish and you stay on fish, and you're a true person, keep the ego, try to fit through a door. People will call you, and you want to portray an image that they'd like to, someone that they would like. And ever since I was a kid, or even later in life, I like talking to everybody, whether they fish or not. I want to hear, what do they do? So, and that's the key, relating to them and being part of it, being part of humanity, because you're not from Mars.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what about the what? Just give us a little idea about your part of the Whistling for Walleyes article.
Well, I've always used the Whistler since I was a kid, and it is a simple template to fishing in the Missouri River. From Pier on up. I haven't fished Pier on down, but Pier all the way up into North Dakota. I've used Whistler jigs, heavier ones. I've slow dragged them on points in the brush. You could pitch them, in the willows. They're just universal. What you get up in that Bismarck area, you can throw against a sandbar in that drop in the sandbar. A lot of it, there's places the sandbars are always reshaping, but there's straight cuts in the sandbar. Now you can look and see if there's fish there. But I throw that Whistler jig and it would propel her down, and the fish would come from the side and eat it. And in the brush up there on the edges, it's I've caught just a lot of fish on it. Works for perch, walleyes, everything, and there's no wrong way to use it. You could take that thing out to Erie. You just got to have appropriate sizes, and there still has been nothing. There's a couple lures that are popping up here and there that are very similar, but originally the Whistler jig was the deal. And add bait, add plastics, and start throwing it. And it's something you could put on a family member's line that doesn't fish much, a kid or your daughter, your wife, or yourself, and throw it out there. And when people are trolling bottom mounters, you're going 1.3, 1.4, get a Whistler jig, pitch it out, and when you're up to speed trolling, and just drag it, and it's like dragging a bottom bouncer without the
Hardware.
sinker. And hey, Mike, how you doing? But it's all about keeping it simple. And a lot of my clients don't want to hang on to a big weight. And I can see in Hawaii, it's deadly. A weight with little floats, micro spinners. Those walleyes really pay attention to micro details. It's unbelievable. Like the Whistler jig and the thumper head. The thumper head was pretty killer. And you could, in some of the back trees, you could tie braid, and I didn't use the 8 or 10. I got tired of losing lures, so I put on like 16, and I could pitch right in the trees, and you could pull a walleye right up over the branch. And the old weed weasel was a good thing back then.
Yeah, I think all of us wish we were fishing right now.
Well, I'm just glad to be off of the lake right now. I'll be honest.
And Kurt, you have your magazines, right?
Yeah,
you have your magazines.
We got our fishing.
I have mine.
She's got hers.
Look at there.
You know who that is?
What's that?
That's ARP.
That's ARP.
Of course.
And
I refuse to look at mine.
You know who that is? You don't get any money if you guess.
No, I don't have a clue.
Johnny Rotten.
Johnny, are you kidding me?
Oh, he looks like Johnny Grandpa, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I wouldn't have guessed that. Hi, Zach.
That's awesome.
Oh, hang on. What, Benny? Oh, Benny said I'm supposed to show you that you did see Benny over my shoulder, didn't you?
That's awesome.
So yeah, so Benny's got a brand new 50-inch screen he's going to put on the bow of his boat this spring. I'm like, he's just excited to have that big thing there. But here's what I got to show you, because it's brand loyalty time.
Oh, I love it. Don't mess with the monkey. Fish monkey gloves keep your fingers warm.
As long as we're talking brands.
Yes, there you go. Catch the monkey, stay warm in an Otter. X Pro flip over, and then look at Heather's happy, warm, and you can see how we have our pop-ups. We got the seats and tables, and we're creatures of comfort too. We don't have to suffer out there. If it's gnarly outside, you could be in where it's warm. And catching big bluegills is fun when your line's not stuck to the ice. How you doing, Greg? Good to see you.
The big guy's on. We better show that Northland Tackle logo there. There we go.
Oh yeah.
Hi, Greg.
Yeah, I actually have that tattoo on my chest just like that too. I would show you, but the tattoo artist fell asleep and it didn't turn out really well. And then I told him I wanted this big, and he made it the size of a quarter right here. Looks like I spilled some ketchup on there.
There's a reason it's bro for president.
Northland Fishing Tackle. I love it. And going in today, I was using a bro bug spoon, and that electric perch is phenomenal. It glows. But someone was telling me that is really a slender profile. Look at how thin that is. But there's some little micro eyes, and when you look at an Aqua-Vu, you could see them. They stick right out, and I think that's one of the things they focalize on that. And this has been a. I don't want to get my my finger in there too much, or kind of you can tell I've been touching a lot of fish. Yeah, bro in a suit and tie. I know. I'm sorry, everybody.
I
I
love
don't
it.
know when they got that of me. And then of course, match the hatch,
Oh yeah.
glass buckshot. I'll stop it from shaking. Let's get that back. You can see that works everywhere. Gold perch, and then people always ask, and I'm just going to show you real quick. How do I put on a wax worm? There's a wax worm right there, and it's a live one.
Don't eat that thing.
Mm. Okay, so yeah. Whoops. So what I do is when you get this thing, there's a lot of ways to do it. If you're perch fishing, I just do the one, just hanging off there like that. Hey, how you doing, Ray?
Ray?
And then you could also just turn the treble and do the wrap. So you're like doing the T-bone, and then when you get another one, go the opposite direction. It's amazing how this works. Works really well. And I'm not wasting this wax worm. I'm actually going to use it tomorrow. I'll leave it on the hook. It might be kind of gray and moldy, but it'll work. And so I just took these out of my bro mug here. But so I'll T-bone them so they're sticking out like that. And when the fish come in, they grab it like that. If you're fishing above the fish, I like to let it hang down. So vertical versus horizontal presentation. There you go. That's exactly what you'd want to do.
Now your bro bug, I like to turn the treble the other way so the eyes are pointing down just above the treble. It seems like that brings some success on a little bit more finicky day.
Yeah, I love that, and we reverse the spoons also. It works good.
Oh,
And
look
then
at that! That looks
now
so
when
delicious.
when you put maggots on, make sure you blob them on, and when that treble hook's so full you can't get any more on, that is a load of maggots. And we call it the Medusa head. Like you see some of them shows where that lady's got snakes on her head.
Bro for
Yeah.
president.
That you want a pile of maggots or a chandelier of maggots. We're here to get these fish to bite.
Just didn't expect all of the red spikes, but I need a drink.
So
Wow.
you're continuing to chase fish right now, and like I said, I've fished with you before, and it's been a lot of fun. And if nobody's never been out chasing a bite with Brian when he's not guiding, it's probably a different experience. I mean, we had to walk out the same footprints. We couldn't drop wax from dust on the ice. We had to kick all our snow back in the holes. But he put me on fish within seconds, and it was so much fun. And Brian lives and breathes fishing, and it's so cool. But what people don't realize is, you got the bro bug, but you've innovated quite a few things, like the straight line reels. I mean, I remember when the straight line reel came out, that was kind of your concept behind the straight line reels. And
well, we needed something for ice fishing, and you could just go buy fly reels. And when I was a kid, I seen two guys fishing on Mille Lacs with fly reels. That's the importance of no spin. And it started out with a simplistic ice design and the right kind of lubricant and the right kind of spacing. And that no spin makes a big deal. Now, in my area, you can get by a little more without it, but there are some pressured areas around here. You better use that. But this is why I do it. Like, here's a family of people. I had them out, and you see them with eel pout, walleyes, and perch. And it's not about a big pile of fish laying around. I don't want to portray that image. Maybe we do catch a lot of fish. And if you got 8 people, a bucket meal is perfect. The kids had a lot of fun. They kept some nice ones, and it wasn't about a commercial operation. It's about getting them out, making sure they get bit, And if you want to keep kids entertained and know if something's really down there, you want to check that out. Bring that with so they can look at it. And then I use a Humminbird and I use the Mega Live ice bundle, and I always make sure to put it in between, and I do the holes in a straight line. If there's a third person in the middle hole, I'll do a second hole right next to it, so that you could see everybody's lures and you can see the fish coming in. And I tell you what, that's been the best thing ever this year. There's no one gets bored because they can actually see there's always something around. And they learn what's a pike, what's a perch, how to cat and mouse with the fish, and that Humminbird on the ice it's amazing now that G4N they updated it and it is spectacular, and you can see the fish moving when they come off the bottom. I call it the Stewie because it looks like Stewie from the Family Guy's head. Here comes Stewie, and because it's kind of football shaped, and it's so you always got the kids looking for Stewie, and is he there? Yeah, and then sometimes you see the shape of the walleye go through, and oh no, that's not Stewie, But it's all about having fun, getting people on the ice. Winter's long, so what are you going to do? Yeah, I mean, there's sports games, there's inside stuff, but why not be outside? Yeah, and I agree that Mega 360 is awesome, and everybody kind of goes to the Mega Live, but the 360 is really deadly, especially like lakes like Mille Lacs, where the walleyes can kind of sit in the mud. You don't even see them sticking out, and if you got real good electronics, you'll see like their fins come up as you go over the mud. And with 360, you see them. If you're looking for big jumbo perch, 360 is arguably the best search tool out there. You can look for little signatures on your forward viewing, but you drop 360 and you see them everywhere. And if you're on a little slough and you drop 360, you can say, "Oh, the perch are behind us. We walked past them," and you'll see every single one on there. It's side imaging, but in a circle. And then with the Mega, it really has a good thing, and it's a refreshing screen radar, but the image shows you what's there. And even today, I always have it on my boat because when you're going along and you're looking for fish, and there they are, and you catch one, you mess around, come back, and you look if they're gone. You look in your 360. Oh, they're behind us. You turn the boat around, and you could chase them down. So they can't hide when you got that. You're using that in concert with your forward viewing. Pretty amazing.
So what are you setting at for distance? Because it can go out. You can do a 300-foot circle, right? So you're not going to go out that far because you're just not going to see stuff.
No, I usually, because I know the spots, so I'm really breaking it down to 100-foot areas, and so I'll sometimes I'll go 70 so I can really get the definition of the fish. If there's multi-species in the area, yeah. See, he used 80, but I like 70 when I'm doing perch. It makes a big difference.
So the 360, for those that have never used it, if you're basin fishing, it's a piece of cake. If you're on structure and you're on steep breaks and you've got rocks and things, it will absolutely mess you up. But it is a fantastic basin tool.
Well, what I like about 360, there's a lake up here called Rainy, and it has huge, Canadian shield rock that comes right out of the basin, and you could be sitting in 45 feet of water. And 360, you'll see the face of a rock coming up, and then with your forward viewing, you could see it, but you might not realize that it comes around this side too.
Oh.
But with your 360, you can carefully get out of there without hitting your prop or running into it. And you could run into it with your boat, but I don't want to run into it with my trolling motor. Though I got an Ultrex, so I could take it, but I don't want to bang it up either. And I'm in areas where you're fishing behind a boulder that comes up to the surface, just under, and you look down, you're like, yeah, that's a rock right there, and then you see it on 360, and you're going through like roofless caverns. You're just going through these caves, and you're catching fish. It's amazing how the bass will go in these areas, and they're in and out of there. They don't stay there. But on the really low pressure days, how they'll hunker down in. And if you're waving your forward viewing at them too much, they can feel it. But some of the brands have different mega beams, and we're starting to look into that. So we're going to find out more about how they affect fish. And I hear the doc talk on Mille Lacs that the largemouth or smallmouth bass are hiding behind rocks. Well, we'll see it on guide trips. If I have a group trip and we have multiple guides, and they're flashing that thing around, they're spoken up. So you use it if they are feeling it, switch to 2D or use 360 and then pitch to 360. There's tricks. Don't be too noisy when you're fishing shallow water. Don't be too noisy ever. But and I'm waiting to hear, maybe someone will come on here. Has anybody gone underwater and listened to them with their ears?
Oh, I want to do that next year. I'm going to do it because I'm going to go out and do some deeper water metal detecting. So I'm going to get myself set up and I'm going to go down. I want to see what it sounds like. I hear it's just crazy loud.
Yeah. So, if you are in a tournament, you don't want to mess it up. And so the trend is being, the click, click, click. But the trend now, we used to fish vertically over the fish. And then we used to, pitch to the fish 20 feet away, 30, 40. Now the trick is to fish the fish 80 feet away. And that's how people are making it happen. So, it's it'd be like reeling in a lead core eventually. If you might have to, how do you cast a heavy lure in shallow water? So there's tricks. And turning into walleye fishing is turning into bobber tournaments, and it's getting real strange. It's fun to watch though.
Let's go back to that 360 real quick. So you're using the Mega 360. Are you searching with the 1.2 megahertz, or are you dropping down to 455 or 800 kilohertz, or maybe with the Mega Live? Because I have the original 360, so I'm running 450.
I'm running on Mega Live. I want the high detail, and I want to see everything. You're seeing baitfish balls. It looks like a photograph, and I'm not going to go back from that. Are there some different possibilities? I don't think so. I want to see the best images, even if I'm sturgeon fishing or if I'm fishing these big dinosaurs on the bottom. It's arguably the best. And then for jumbo perch, you can actually size the perch from the images that you see on the beam. And if you can get close to the fish, even sometimes when we're crappie fishing, I'll laugh because I could zoom into 50 feet and I could tell if they're bluegills or crappies, and
Isn't that something?
by looking at their shadow and how they're holding up. There you go. Yeah, that's
Oh, I thought that was a crappie picture. I guess it's a walleye picture.
yeah. I have quite a few of them walleye pictures nowadays, and I like catching the crappies and bluegills the best, but I like walleyes too. Anything that bites fast is a panfish to me.
Yeah.
But I'd like to change the name from panfish to photo fish because when you say it's a panfish, everybody's like, "Oh, we can't let it go. We got to put it in the pan." But big bluegills are photo fish.
Well, that lake that I was fishing on, where I was bragging on the size here. Yeah,
That's
they were
amazing.
8.5 to 10.5 inch perch, and there were groups of people that were throwing 60 of those on the ice and taking them home. And if they just understood, if they left them alone, in a couple years they'd probably hit that 12, 13-inch mark, and we'd really have something to fish, and then put them back.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a curve there in the perch. In some areas grow an inch a year. Other areas they'll make 12 inches by 6 years. In the North Dakota. There's some places here that a perch will hit 12 inches in 7.5 to 8 years. And some bodies of water here, if a perch is 8 inches in the spring, it'll be 11 in the fall, which is amazing growth. You think it goes from this bait fish to 11-inch perch is a nice perch, and in the fall they're fat. So that's and it's all changing. The water qualities and things are changing, adding zebra mussels, rusty crayfish, and all this stuff. It's the mad experiment what's going on. But now we're seeing that growths are happening, but there's also formulas that tell you that they're not. So when a whole bunch of perch get really big really fast and no one's seen them all year, that tells me they grew fast.
Right. Well,
So with
I don't know that much about perch, but perch don't live that long. So, I guess maybe it isn't that detrimental to fish the perch out. I don't know, but I just like to be able to go out and catch big fish, and I'm just into releasing fish all the time.
Well, there's a very, very low percentage or low percentage chance of a perch making it to 12 inches or a walleye making it to 20 inches. The odds are really against those fish, the bigger fish. So if there's a high volume of fish that ain't going to make it to a size, that's probably a good place to target them. If you got a whole bunch of 10-inch fish in a system, that might be a good meal size fish. But everything will point to the fact of harvesting different size levels. Not just targeting one size. Maybe a lake only has a single percentage points of really big perch, and I got a lot of clients that they'll get a 12 or 13-inch perch and throw it back because the 10 and a half to 11 and a halves, they're young. They haven't been in a lot of problems. They don't have anything in their lesions or yellow grub is not a big deal because it actually moves through the fish. So you'll find bodies of water here and there where there's big perch laying on the ice. That's a crude way of thinking, and they're full of grubs here. And in those same bodies of water, I'm not going to say anything because they'll know. They're clean. So why did they waste all those fish? They're throwing them on the ice because they got some grubs. Throw them back and look in about a year or two. They might be clean, and it all depends on what they're eating. If they're up where where the that whole chain of events with yellow grub happens, that they're going to get it. But every lake has a percentage, and some percentages are really low, but they're going to change. And Niscus is black spots. That's not very. That doesn't happen a lot. But it's all about forage, and some lakes don't produce jumbo perch as well. There's a few. You go to western Minnesota, there's a few big ones that have some, but then there's a whole lot that don't have any. And in this area, there's almost every lake has jumbo perch in them, and in your areas, uh, pretty prolific. So
we have a question. What is yellow grub? Never heard of that.
yellow grub is when you cut open a perch, they'll have a little circle in them, and it'll be yellow, and it's in the meat. If you poke it, it comes out, and it's a living grub. Then it doesn't pass through humans, and this is something that can come out through cleaning and washing, and then when you freeze it, it's done. And it actually adds its own butter. No, I'm just kidding. but it's not a bad thing. It's a visual thing, and as you see people, on their trip getting desperate for fish, they're starting to hit these lakes that have a lot of grubs in them, and they're saying, we're still alive after decades of eating them. But yellow grub is common. It's everywhere. Wherever there's, snails and waterfowl, the kingfisher it spreads it. It kind of moves through everything. So it's a circle, but it doesn't stay in them. So that's one thing I found out why some lakes, people say that lake is real grubby, and I'm like, really? There's no grubs in any of them now, So it's also areas where are the perch feeding? Are they? I mean, is there a low number of crayfish? No freshwater shrimp? Not a lot of spot tail shiners or young in your perch, and they're hitting the snails a lot. Well, if they're pounding on snails, that's gonna give them yellow grub, and so if you're going to be fishing shoreline areas, you're fishing in a spot where you could get some yellow grubs. And
Ray and the yellow grubs.
yes, but it doesn't. They don't hurt anything. And if you go offshore, and now the lakes have a perch explosion in them, and I could go for an hour on this, but a lot of the lakes in the area have billions of micro perch. So they have this year's hatch, last year's hatch, and the hatch before. So something, or the weather obviously was perfect. And it's the same in northern Wisconsin. It's the same in North Dakota, something across the area. And I'm thinking we warmed up really fast all 3 years, and we had good, stable pressure, weather, everything. And so the lakes are flourishing with these, but they also make the walleyes full. Nothing stops a walleye's clock like small perch. And we're seeing that. And so you got to interest them. So I've been throwing a lot of eye candy plastics, paddle tails, and fluke style baits, something a little bit different. And some of the colors that Northland has for that are out producing live bait. So I'm using, you know, what I've been using is also jig worms. So jig worms, end of June during the mid-fly hatch, switch over to paddle tails after that, and then flukes when you get to late summer. And you'll watch this transition happen. So you could use a jig worm, or like from the beginning of June through, because that mid-fly hatch controls the movement of the fish on these glacial lakes. And then it goes to the crayfish molting, and it goes to instinctive reactive. Then it goes to chasing the young of the year fish that are getting bigger in size, everything in the lake. And so that's where you match the hatch, but you match the size and with the different colors and actions.
Okay, so we're coming close to the end here, but I want to ask you, match the hatch. Where does Wonder Bread come in there?
Well, all fish, I don't care if they're even rock bass, like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, so they put them on Wonder Bread, right? No, it's I think with anything, it's not how it looks sitting still, because no one ever just sits with their bait still. They're moving it, and now you add these different shades and different colors, and it chases everything. Good luck, Ray.
Good luck.
It changes everything, and you get out to the Great Lakes, and some people are winning tournaments, and they got dirty underwear or whatever they call it, and it's just color with all this different stuff, or the bullet hole, or the gold and green eye, the alien thing, and the ape, or ape and the peanut butter sandwich colors on these spinners, and everything else the same. It's a night crawler on a harness. But they're winning on this, ape thing, and with P&J on it. So that's where Wonder Bread comes from. Or, it could be just Joe Raymer yelling at us to make Wonder Bread because it works on his lakes. And now we're using it, and it's working here. So, Joe, it's your fault. You can blame it on him.
Well, bro, it's been great to have you. I guess one more quick thing here. Sad news about Lutsen Lodge. That boy, I'll tell you what. That thing smoked right down to the ground. All it's got is a chimney and a fireplace. Wow.
Yeah, I hope it all works out for them. They're talking about codes and this and that, but still, it's historical place, and many people have gone there. And my clients today were there and had dinner, and they said it's just a great place to go visit. And it's sad to see that, and you just never know. You gotta live like Grandma used to say, you got to live every day like it's your last one, and one day you're going to be right.
No doubt. Bro, it's been great to have you. Thank you much.
Well, thanks, guys.
Heather, thank you.
You guys be safe, and, stay out of trouble, you two.
Oh, will do. All right, bro. Thank you, Heather. Thank you. Have a great night, folks. Oh, yeah, that is.